I really hate it when I pick up a project that I started literally months ago, one that I literally thought was going to be home for Christmas, only to realise that I've still barely really got it off the ground. In the back of your mind, or on the pit of your uneasy stomach, is the fear not just that you might drag things out a little bit, that it might take a while, but really that you might not finish it at all. Just what is going on? Well, one thing that's going on is that I'm finally sewing 2 panels together, which is quite exciting, the front and the side panels. I really kind of should or could have done this before doing the canvassing last time, but it was a bit easier then to handle the front panel alone than the whole shebang with this attached to it. But yeah, finally sewing something together, exciting times, and then we're getting on with hip pocket. So yeah, that's the deal today. But what again is the deal with this project? Why is it drifting in the way it is? What's the matter? Where am I going? Who am I? What have I become? And so on and so forth. Ooh. For anyone who's checking on this project for the first time, I'm making my big tweed winter coat. I started this, I think, in the end of September. It is now, what, like early mid-December. And yeah, I'm basically here still faffing around with pockets, still, you know, with a lot of hard tailoring ahead of me, if you like. I really don't know why. I was so excited for this project, and I still am, but for whatever reason, for all sorts of reasons, it's just not really taking off in the way that I'd imagined. Yeah, incidentally, I am actually going to taper in a little bit of the waist notch here, just to add a little bit more shape. After all, I've been talking a lot about how this is going to be relatively boxy, with the belts basically doing the waist shaping work, but I think just an extra centimetre or so in at the waist notch here will serve a purpose. I mean, yeah, if you told me 10 weeks ago or whatever, you know, 2.5 months ago, that I would only just now be sewing the first set of panels together, I would have done a good old clownish spit take with my coffee and asked you just what exactly you were smoking. Oh, this is fun, isn't it? So, just given that a little press and we're ready to move on. Just find a place for this pocket. Don't ask why I didn't do this in the pattern stage and the cutting stage. The answer, of course, begins with L, has a Z in it. No matter, no harm, no foul. So yeah, here I just need a pocket. I'm going to do pipe pockets with maybe a flap. Let's see how thick and chunky it proves to be, how unwieldy. Yeah, and so just trying to find a rough hip point around here, and it's going to just, yeah, cut across there into the side panel like that at a slight upward angle of about 1 centimetre. I think we'll do it, I don't know how long. Yeah, because normally there would be a dart here kind of guiding me down the front panel, and I'll be using that as a kind of reference as to where to place the pocket. But I can just imagine where it would go, because it would kind of run up into the centre of the welt pocket here. And, you know, it's all style, it's all taste a little bit, as long as it's roughly in the kind of natural place that my hands are going to want to go. I think 18 centimetres is probably good. You know, I want to be able to fit my gloved hands in there and so on. And then just angle that up there by 1 centimetre, mark stitch that on so it shows through to the other side. Hang on now, I'm being stupid because the centimetre elevation is to do with when there is a dart and it kind of folds back in. So no, it's just going to run along flat like that, level with the ground, as you say. And yeah, instantly, once I've made this one, as far as transferring it identically onto the other half of the front, I'll just sort of take a measurement basically from, you know, down here, whatever that was, 12 centimetres, in here, 20.5 centimetres, and also reference the side seam, and they should match up. Cool. Yep, so I've just stitched that on there, and that should sew through now to the other side. Yep, so on the wrong side. And yeah, the canvas heel will serve as the reinforcement for the pocket in this case, so I actually just need to tack a little bit of extra there, just so it's kind of even all around. The seam allowance kind of getting in the way here is always a nuisance with these pockets, but I'm hoping that if I just, well, I don't know, if I just pray, it'll all kind of pan out okay. I've actually just used a piece of toile muslin in the end, so it was just lying around handy, and it's more or less the same consistency. But yeah, when projects drift like this, you can easily fall into the trap of getting quite self-reproachful, quite bitter, and, you know, maybe confused about where exactly the time's gone, like what you've been up to. And you should, quote unquote, have been up to this. But realistically, you know, unless you're a professional tailor, seamstress, and so on, and you're 2 or 3 months behind on your workload for reasons that are beyond your understanding, then okay, that's kind of a different problem. But for the rest of us, you know, doing this as a pastime, again, pastime, not time. I don't know, actually, does that make any sense? You know what I mean? You know, the rest of life is naturally going to get in the way sometimes, whether it's family, relationships, or work, or just other projects, or whatever, not really being in the mood, getting into another hobby on the side, whatever it might be. Don't worry, not the case in my case. But yeah, that's the thing about other priorities, is that they take priority. They need to come first. It's only natural. You know, I shouldn't really be too hard on myself, and yeah, it just, I don't know. It's a bit of a bummer, isn't it? It really does just stick in the craw, doesn't it, when you want to see your sweet creations come to life as quickly as possible. Yeah, you know, I actually think that's too high. I think that wants to be even a few centimetres lower than that. Be right back. Yeah, and in just an abundance of caution here, I am going to put another strip of pocketing in the back, as well as reinforcement. Rather be overly cautious than under. If it makes it excessively chunky, so be it. At the price, or at the reward, I guess, of, yeah, pockets not tearing, not sagging, so on and so forth. It's a loosely woven fabric, or it's a thickly woven fabric. I don't want to give it too many excuses to just fall apart on me. But yeah, and as I've whinged about in the previous videos, there's just always often a lot of trepidation ahead of whichever step is coming next in the process, and that's often a reason for just putting things off. And again, in this case, as I've just complained, the fabric is a new one, it's a special one, it's an idiosyncratic one, it's behaving in ways, or, I fear it's going to behave in ways that a little idiot like me can't fully account for with my sort of experience level. The question isn't so much why does it happen, because as I say, I think that explains itself, life just gets in the way. It's more just why is it a bummer when it does happen, why is it such a bummer when it happens? Maybe I'm being over dramatic, but well, humour me, why don't you? Here I have now my little piping pieces. We get sewn on top there and then folded through eventually. I'm going for a relatively thick piping given the thickness of the fabric, about 1 centimetre or so, and we'll just see how it pans out, won't we? I think in my case, what really bothers me about these things falling on the side, or why it really bothers me, is because I'm just inherently an extremely impatient person. Oh dear me. Now that might seem counterintuitive for someone whose hobby is tailoring, because obviously it kind of just takes mountains of time anyway, but I've been lucky in the past with my previous projects to either have had long stretches of spare time in which to get things done, or else I've had these very hard deadlines just really kind of forcing my hand, usually a wedding of someone or other, once upon a time, or indeed twice upon a time, for yours truly. Yeah, it's a vague point and kind of a cliche, but patience really is the key, I think, for not losing your mind when things sort of lose their momentum a little bit. I think my problem is that I get so excited about the end product that I kind of forget how to calculate what amount of time is reasonable basically to get it done, and then put kind of undue pressure on myself to power through even when, again, the other circumstances of life don't really permit such a sort of tunnel-visioned, monomaniacal approach. But the key with impatience, I think, is just you have to notice in those moments when you are feeling impatient or acting on impatience, and just kind of remind yourself that, well, usually at least, certainly as a hobbyist, nothing is really going to happen all that bad if you fail to, do 2 days work in one, or 1 week's work in a month, or whatever it would be, whatever kind of slack you feel like you're ceremoniously giving yourself. What on earth have I done there? Oh, yeah. Ugh. Truly, the sky, it's not going to fall, even if I don't get this done for Christmas or indeed this winter. But there is truly nothing like impatience to get the blood boiling, the thoughts wheeling and reeling, and generally the mood sour. Welcome indeed to the Terror Dome, because we are now cutting through the front panels, for better or worse, most likely for worse, hopefully for just about good enough. Well, here goes nothing. All right. Okay, so we've got several layers here. We've got the tweed, we've got the canvas, we've got the pocketing. Ugh! We've got a little bit of seam allowance going further down the line. I like to use these little thread snippers just for that extra control, and because my fabric shears famously suck. I've never really stopped to wonder, if I were to just irretrievably, unrescuably ruin this whole step and did just put a massive hole in the wrong place on my front panel, without having the extra fabric left to retrieve it, to recut it, to repair the damage spiritually, materially, pan-dimensionally, that I've caused, what exactly would I do? How would I work around it? I feel like I've set myself up there to give some life-changing answer, but I honestly don't have one. I'd love to hear your thoughts, but oh golly gosh, this is no fun. This is no fun at all. And there really is nothing for it, is there, but to do what you gotta do. These garment snips are really doing well, aren't they? Think of all the layers they're going through here. It's like 4 layers of tweed there, basically, where the seam allowance is. Pocketing, canvas, fair play. I should just cut everything out with you, shouldn't I? It really has to go right up to that stitch. And obviously the thicker the fabric, the harder it is to, well, do that accurately. Not only does acting out of impatience generally just spoil your day, it can both lead you to act too impulsively, do things in a hurry. I would not want to be doing this under any time pressure. But then conversely, that same buildup of pressure, time pressure, literal physical blood pressure in your heart and soul, that can actually, if it really does reach too high a pitch, can kind of basically freeze you up, so that rather than acting too impulsively, you can hardly bring yourself to act at all. It's almost like the kind of burnout thing, isn't it? When you sort of push yourself so hard, you suddenly become unable really to do anything. Then it's really just the impatience itself, the feeling and the thinking, the thought process of impatience that is at fault there, rather than the actual work itself, perhaps. It might be that you're doing 8 hours a day on this project, but if you're doing it at a nice leisurely pace, or whatever pace really, but as long as in your mind I'm not putting any, as I say, undue pressure, any sort of purely imagined pressure on myself, I'm letting it get done at whatever pace I can do it at, and accepting that that's as fast as it's going to go, and if it doesn't need to be that fast, then all the better. Again, that's kind of all in the head. You know, you could be doing an hour a day, you could be doing 10 minutes a day, you could be doing 8 hours a day. It's kind of all irrelevant what I'm talking about. Okay, so there we go. Big old hole in the middle. Oh, it's upside down. I was wondering what happened there. Let's see how this pans out. So these flaps kind of get pushed through this hole to the back. And if I've snipped close enough to those stitches, the sides at the edges here should be nice and neat, and you know, these little triangles should fold back nice and naturally, nice and neatly. Yeah, then the seam allowance for these flaps kind of serves as the body of the piping here, so that 1 centimetre. So yeah, just using the seam allowance there as a guide, I'm just hand stitching these pipes into place basically, because otherwise, if you try and just do it purely by machine, I find they always start wriggling around someplace or other. Yeah, and even that, you can see it's not especially even, and it's also a bit chunkier maybe than I would have liked. But how can I give out lectures on impatience and not try and observe the solutions myself? Just calm down, Pat. So there we go, I've whip stitched that shut now. I've hand stitched these pipes into place. That's looking relatively even actually, and I've tucked the prongs back and I've secured them back there, these little triangular bits. Lord knows, that's about as fitty as it gets. Let's make some flaps. And really a large amount of the frustration when you're just not quite able to get momentum with your projects is knowing how much fun, well not even how much fun, but just how rewarding you find it to be getting on with it, to be in the swing of it, to be kind of just lost in the activity, in the practice itself, rather than just sort of, you know, doing your shopping, wandering around, fretting about when you're gonna next have time to get down to it. Look at these big old chunky flaps, eh? You know, I haven't worried about pattern matching this, but it seems to have more or less panned out. It's funny, I'm almost especially lucky with having this channel in that it kind of really forces me a little bit to treat this kind of semi-like a job or like work and really get back in the saddle perhaps even more often than I would purely of my own volition. And having been away from this for a couple of weeks, I really haven't touched it basically since making a nice video. I can tell how much I've missed it. Ooh, what's going on there? Bother. All right. I'll take that back. Yeah, patience, not just a virtue, is it? Kind of more of a prerequisite for the sane mind. I think especially with a project like this, as in what this represents to me, you know, a project where I'm breaking new ground for myself, I'm pushing my technique forward, trying to do something new, trying to do something, you know, deliberately kind of difficult, I guess, and challenging. It's kind of necessary just to accept and remind yourself as often as you notice that impatience flaring up, that it is just going to take as long as it takes. And if other priorities, other life goals or whatever it might be come knocking in the meantime, then that's just the way it is. And it'll be all the sweeter when you do finally get it done. Oh. Well, at this rate, this is going to make a great Christmas present to myself in like 2029. Or I'm only going to get it finished at the height of next summer, which would really be a test of patience, wouldn't it? But let's see where I am in the new year, eh?